When I started with Bop Delux, it was rather like a love affair, and it was a bit like an act of love the whole way through until almost at the end when the love went out of it and it became a bit of an act, to be honest. So I just felt it was too much of a sham. Being tied down to kind of somebody else's style means that you really can only develop within a certain circle. Without other people around, you've got the freedom to pick and choose musicians and to experiment a little bit more.
Time for giving in the two-star hotel where breakfast is bad. It's just the price of a smile. I know it's not easy to live this way. Just an hour and a fleeting kiss to the
Do you find the music business a good outlet for someone like you who's basically interested in all aspects of the arts?
It gets a little bit easier at the moment in terms of varied things that one can do within the pop music business, although there was a time when it was very narrow. It's not the ideal outlet, but it does help me finance things that just are on the fringe of pop music. Studio in inverted commas, you know, there is no soundproofing, there is no electricity up there. In fact, I have to run the mains up from the kitchen downstairs, and in the winter there's no heating, so I have to play with an overcoat on and gloves. But I would like to eventually to have enough equipment there to be able to master a mainstream kind of album. People demand a little bit more polish when they go out and buy their pop records.
Do you find it quite easy to switch roles from musician and performer to producer?
It can be tricky. It's always very frustrating watching another group or musician work, and I tend to get involved on the musical side with most of the people I've worked with. And it's almost like a kind of an Alfred Hitchcock appearance in one of his movies where he's always in there somewhere at one point. And even if it's just banging a tambourine on a track, you know, I tend to creep in there at some stage.
Was your own record label, Cocteau, originally started as a freer artistic outlet for you, or to help new groups release their work?
Well, it was started it was an act of desperation. During the period I didn't have a major contract, and I bought back from EMI a couple of songs that I'd recorded for the Quit Dreaming album, one of which was Daydream in Colour, and decided to start a label and release that as a little showcase for the things I'd done but weren't getting released. So we put that out, and it was reasonably successful for a first-time independent release. And then after that, the label really sort of started becoming much more of a showcase for other people.
You've recorded 3 instrumental albums. Can you tell me how each one came about?
Well, the Ritual Echo album was never really intended for public consumption. During the point of time when I had no major record contracts in between EMI and Phonogram, I was earning my living really by doing production work, and whilst I was at home working with a 4-track and trying out a few kind of experimental things, and that became Sounding the Ritual Echo. That was heard by a theatre company called the Yorkshire Actors Company, And they then approached me to do a soundtrack for a play they were doing based on the German expressionist movie, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. And the play was performed with the music live. And after that, they tackled another film, but this time a cocktail movie, called Beauty and the Beast. And I was much more familiar with that, I suppose, than Caligari, because I had a print of it myself and so on, and various books about the making of the film. And they were sticking very rigidly to Cocteau's script.
Most musicians' heroes tend to be other musicians. How come yours is the French poet Jean Cocteau?
It started a long time ago when I was at college, at our college, and I discovered a book of his screenplays. And it was the images from the films that first of all attracted me, and as I found out more about him, I discovered then he was also a poet and had written books and painted and drew and made ceramics and theatre design, virtually every facet of the arts that he worked in. He just seems to say things that I find I can agree with.